The South African Medical Research Council released a study in August 2017 called Rape Justice in South Africa. In this study, they analysed 4,000 rape cases that had been reported to the police in 2012 at 172 police stations across the country. Not surprisingly, they found that most of the victims were women, 94.1% were women, and 5% had been men. But quite alarmingly, almost half, 46%, were children, and kids who lived in single-parent households where they mostly only lived with their mother were far more likely to get raped than those who lived in a household where both parents were present. 99% of perpetrators were male. In 6 out of 10 cases, a victim had been raped by someone he or she knew. But in the case of gang rapes, in other words, where multiple perpetrators were involved, a victim's chances increased drastically to have been raped by a stranger. In such cases, 61.7% of the perpetrators were not known to the victim. And quite alarmingly, 14% of the perpetrators were 18 years or younger, and teenage perpetrators were far more likely to rape children than adults. Children were mostly raped by relatives or acquaintances. In terms of race, most victims were raped by someone of the same racial group as them. There was a clear difference between the timing of rapes for adults and adolescents and young children. Adults and adolescents were most likely to get raped over a weekend, and nearly half of the victims were raped in the evenings between 6 p.m. and 6 a.m., with a peak between 9 p.m. and midnight. In the case of younger children between the ages of 0 and 11 years, rapes tended to take place on weekdays more often than over weekends, and very often in the afternoons when children returned from school. 4 out of 10 children had been raped between 12 noon and 6 p.m. 3 out of 5 rape cases occurred at residential settings, in other words homes, and a quarter of the cases that happened at residential settings happened at the home of the perpetrator. Only 24% of all reported cases happened in open spaces such as the veld, parks or cemeteries.